This picture is a lot like what I looked like on my first day of UCT lectures. I was hungover as hell from the night before, as a typical first year would be, and I arrived at my first physics lecture for my professor to tell me that I needed the following textbook for the course. 1,200 Rand was the price of that textbook new. I was already broke from drinks the night before. There was no way I was going to be able to afford this. I needed a cheap alternative. So I dragged my hungover, limping self over to a notice board to try find it secondhand, only to find this. An absolute mess with 1,002 ads for 1,002 different things. Eventually sorted through the mess to find the particular textbook I was looking for, only to discover it had already been sold. I had to resort to buying the textbook new. It was at this moment when the thought occurred to me, if this is my experience, coming from a privileged background, what is the experience of 90% of South African students who are coming from financially constrained backgrounds, where this student might be the first person in their family attending university and they need to find their textbook amongst this? Can you imagine how overwhelming that must be? Let's summarize this problem. There are three problems that exist in particular. One, first-hand textbooks are just way too expensive. On average, they cost 1,300 Rand. Two, second-hand textbooks, cut off a little bit, are incredibly inconvenient to find and incredibly inconvenient to sell. And finally, if you do manage to find one, it's not necessarily safe buying it from someone you've never met before. Step in CueAV, the ultimate second-hand textbook marketplace. CueAV is a digital marketplace that connects buyers and sellers of second-hand textbooks online. We solve the problem. We're cheap, on average 70% cheaper than new textbooks. We're convenient. Using our well-designed web app, you can find or sell your textbook in seconds, and it's safe. Transact all in-app, no cash needed. The revenue model, business model is simple. We take a 10% commission fee from the buyer on textbook purchase. I started this company last year in my third year of electrical and computer engineering, and since then we have achieved the following. We have over 18,000 users across 10 different universities in South Africa. We have sold more than 1,000 textbooks, and we have saved students more than R1 million in the process while transacting more than 400,000 Rand. We've also been part of the MTN Solution Space Incubator, and recently, along with Xero, we've been accepted into the Ngini EdTech Accelerator, Africa's EdTech Accelerator, the only one. The team bringing you the next disruption in EdTech is myself and my partner, Lungelo Gumede. Lungelo is a finance lecturer at the Graduate School of Business and runs an existing successful student-oriented company called Excel at Uni. I'm a student, fourth year electrical and computer engineering, and know how to bang against a keyboard to make cool stuff pop up. But to know where we want to take CueAV in the future, we need to understand our why, our mission statement. CueAV exists to democratize information and resources within education to make education more meaningful. That means within the next 10 years, we not only hope to make textbooks affordable and accessible for every university student in Africa, we want to become an holistic marketplace for resources within education. We want to make the tools and resources one needs to get an education accessible, affordable, and meaningful. That means we hope to grow into textbooks, or existing textbooks, school uniform, laptops, stationery, and notes. However, the tools to get an education are meaningless unless the education itself has value and is meaningful, right? Those tools are null and void. And this has become something I've just become really passionate about through my time at CueAV, because trying to balance it with my fourth year with electrical and computer engineering has made the inefficiencies in tertiary education just blaringly obvious to me. And we've heard it from a couple speakers tonight. We've heard it from Xero, where we have just an incredible university dropout rate, and we've heard it from Alex with Disconnect and their experience with students currently. The reason why tertiary education is experiencing the problems it is that it's just a system that hasn't changed for 100 years. 100 years ago, you would have a lecturer, much like this, standing in front of a class and dispersing information. Maybe it would be a class of 40, 50 students. 100 years later, today, you go to modern universities and it's pretty much the same thing, except maybe you'll have one lecturer within a class of 400 students in a really fancy, expensive lecture theatre. So going forward, the two biggest things that I've noticed in terms of tertiary education, where I think it can move, are the following. Firstly, I think education needs to move away from being test-based outcomes towards project-based outcomes. And my favorite quote on this is a quote by Einstein that says, if you test a fish's intelligence on its ability to climb a tree, it's going to grow up an entire life thinking it's stupid. And that's exactly what we do with the entire education system. We test everyone's ability based off of their ability to write an assessment. And then we create these billion-dollar industries targeted to make people, like SAT and NBT test preps, to make people be better at these assessments. When these assessments are meaningless and you never really need to write an assessment to make anything in the world. Project-based outcomes, however, are far better, and I could tell you that from experience. Because I've learned so much more building Quillo than university could have ever taught me. And I can promise Alex, Xero, and anyone else who has done something similar, and Guardian Gabriel, can say the exact same. Because it becomes your project. It becomes something that has value and meaning. So the lessons you learn along the way, you retain so much better, and the challenges you face are new and novel, and you find cool ways to solve them and show yourself it's possible. That's the first way. The second way is that education needs to move away from being professor-orientated, where the professor is the person that is the custodian of information, and it needs to be democratized and become freely accessible. And here, I do not understand why undergraduate degrees are a thing. Every single undergraduate course is available online for free, taught by some of the best professors and educators in the world. But every single university, year after year, will tell thousands of its professors, make the content all over again. And they do that year after year after year. So not only is this an inefficient use of resources and time, it becomes particularly problematic when you have a professor that doesn't know how to teach and is now being forced to teach. When you could just use an incredible professor from somewhere who's taught this stuff for years. Move it into the hands of students, use the tools such as the internet and democratize that information and make the student responsible for their learning and make the professor the mentor or the guider through that education. Those are the ways I think tertiary education can improve. And I want to pose a challenge to the audience and to South Africa and to the startups here and the people and the inspiring entrepreneurs here. Africa's an interesting case. We leapfrogged, in terms of telecommunications, wired communication. We went straight from no internet access, straight to 3G, 4G, 5G, 22G, and Wi-Fi. We never went through the whole, or a lot of Africa didn't go through the whole DSL phase. I want to challenge Africa to do the same with education. I want to challenge Africa to be the pallbearers and the people that guide the light forward for the rest of the world as to how it should change. So I challenge you, let's make education accessible, let's democratize it, and let's make it meaningful. Thank you very much.